The Daniel Martell, the stepfather.
He's on meth.
He's on meth.
He sells meth.
One viewer asked, "Why is no one talking about Cyndy, the maternal grandmother?" She has said nothing. And they're right. While the country has focused on Daniel, Malehya, and the paternal grandmother, Belinda Gray, Cyndy Murray's silence has made many people suspicious. She is the mother of Malehya, the grandmother of Lilly and Jack, and she was there on the very morning the children disappeared. Yet since that day, she has refused every interview, every camera, every question. But silence doesn't mean there are no shadows, because her partner, Wade Paris, was secretly recorded in a 45-minute video, where he talked about Daniel, and even claimed he was using illegal substances.
The Daniel Martell, the stepfather.
He's on meth.
He's on meth.
He sells meth.
So why has Cyndy stayed quiet? And what does she really know? In this video, we will find out. Part 1, The Silent Grandmother. While much of the public attention has been drawn to Daniel Martell, to Malehya Brooks Murray, and to the loud voice of paternal grandmother Belinda Gray, one figure has remained almost entirely in the shadows: Cyndy Murray. She is not just a side character. She is the mother of Malehya and the maternal grandmother of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. And most importantly, she was present on the very morning the children vanished. Yet since that day, she has refused interviews, declined every media request, and stayed hidden from the spotlight. This silence has only fueled speculation and made many people suspicious. To understand the significance of her role, you need to picture that morning in Lansdowne, Nova Scotia. It was May 2nd. Panic had taken hold of the small, isolated property. RCMP officers scoured the trailer and its surroundings. Volunteers in orange vests combed the woods and swampy terrain. Relatives shouted the children's names into the wind, hoping to hear a reply. Helicopters buzzed overhead while dogs searched the ground. The entire scene was chaos, desperation, fear, and confusion hanging in the air. And then, in the middle of it all, Cyndy arrived. She didn't come as just another relative. She was Malehya's mother. She was the grandmother of the two children everyone was frantic to find. And her actions in that moment would mark a turning point. Witnesses recall a dramatic scene. Cyndy stepped in, picked up baby Meadow, the toddler who had been left in the care of Daniel and Malehya, and moved quickly toward her daughter. Malehya followed, distraught, while Daniel remained behind. In those frantic minutes, Daniel called out after her, shouting angrily, "Cyndy, get the fun out of here." His words cut through the chaos, but they didn't stop her. She placed Meadow in the car, ushered her daughter inside, and drove away. That was it. In one decisive act, Cyndy removed her daughter and granddaughter from the scene. From that moment forward, Malehya never again lived with Daniel. She blocked him on her phone. She updated her Facebook status to single. And the fragile image of a family that had existed the night before was shattered completely. The public reaction to this moment has been divided. To some, it looked like instinct, the protective move of a mother who could sense the danger around her daughter. To others, it looked calculated, almost too decisive, as though she already knew something was terribly wrong inside that trailer. Because who, in the middle of a frantic missing children search, thinks first of ending a relationship? Who cuts ties so quickly, unless there was already deep mistrust building behind closed doors? That is the shadow of suspicion that clings to Cyndy Murray. Her silence only deepens it. In the months since, Belinda Gray has become almost a second spokesperson for the case. She appears on live streams, calls for public inquiries, and shares text messages with her daughter-in-law. She speaks about her grandchildren with visible pain, letting the world see her heartbreak. Meanwhile, Cyndy has refused to say anything publicly. She has not stood before cameras, not issued a statement, not clarified her perspective. That decision could have many explanations. Perhaps she is simply following RCMP advice. Investigators often tell families not to speak, to avoid compromising the case. Perhaps she believes the media storm is toxic, and silence is the only way to protect herself and her daughter. Or perhaps, as some suspect, her silence is a way of keeping uncomfortable truths out of the public eye. The fact that her silence is contrasted so sharply with Belinda's openness only adds to the sense of mystery. In true crime stories, the quiet figure often becomes the one audiences want to hear from the most. Because silence is rarely neutral, it begs questions. It creates space for rumor, suspicion, and fear. And then comes the detail that complicates everything further: Cyndy's partner, Wade Paris. While she has stayed silent, Wade's words were dragged into the spotlight. A local content creator, pretending to be interested in buying a horse trailer, secretly recorded a 45-minute conversation with him. In that video, Wade openly discussed Daniel, the chaos of the case, and even claimed that Daniel had been using drugs. That revelation sent shockwaves through the online true crime community. If Wade was willing to say it, then surely Cyndy must have known too. And if she knew, why didn't she step forward? Why hasn't she confirmed or denied the claim? Her silence here is particularly haunting. It isn't just a refusal to speak to reporters. It is a refusal to clarify a statement made by the man she lives with, a statement that has now become part of the wider narrative of the case. The image of the two grandmothers tells the story best. On one side, Belinda, loud, demanding, emotional, spilling her grief into every camera that will listen. On the other, Cyndy, quiet, withdrawn, protective, refusing to be drawn into the public storm. But sometimes, silence raises more questions than words ever could. Because ultimately, Cyndy's role in this tragedy may not be about what she has said. It may be about what she has done. She removed her daughter and grandchild from Daniel's reach on the very morning Lilly and Jack disappeared. She cut ties instantly, without hesitation. That single act makes her one of the most important figures in this story, not because of what she revealed, but because of what she concealed. So the question remains, is Cyndy Murray simply a mother following her instincts, protecting her child from a toxic relationship? Or is she holding back knowledge that could change everything we think we know about what happened to Lilly and Jack Sullivan? Until she speaks, the silence itself becomes her testimony. And silence, in this case, is louder than words. Part 2. Her silence and suspicion. If Cyndy's sudden appearance on May 2nd shocked people, what came after unsettled them even more: her silence. In a case where nearly everyone seemed to have something to say, from relatives to neighbors to online commentators, Cyndy Murray has chosen absolute quiet. Reporters have called, local outlets have knocked, even national networks have reached out. But time and time again, she has refused. No press conferences, no tearful interviews, no statements begging for her grandchildren's safe return. And that silence, in a case filled with contradictions, has been louder than any words could ever be. It is striking when you compare her behavior to that of Belinda Gray, the paternal grandmother. Belinda has been almost a second face of this case. She's spoken publicly, gone on live streams, called for a public inquiry, and criticized the RCMP for secrecy and delays. Her grief has been raw, unfiltered, visible to anyone who would listen. In her voice, you hear the ache of a grandmother who feels abandoned by the system. Cyndy, by contrast, has remained invisible. The absence is so glaring that viewers began leaving comments on YouTube, wondering, why is no one talking about Cyndy? She is, after all, the maternal grandmother, the one with direct access to Malehya, the one who lived closest to the chaos, the one who pulled her daughter out of Daniel's grasp on the very day Lilly and Jack disappeared. If anyone had insight into the home those children lived in, it would be her, yet she has chosen to say nothing. Why? There are several possibilities. The most generous explanation is that her silence is strategic. Families are often advised by investigators not to speak publicly, especially in the early days of an investigation. Loose words can compromise witness statements, alert potential suspects, or damage future prosecutions. If Cyndy is simply following RCMP direction, then her silence might actually signal cooperation rather than concealment. Another explanation is emotional. Maybe she doesn't want to expose herself to the brutality of the media spotlight. Public grief is messy. Every word you say is dissected. Every expression you show is judged. Perhaps Cyndy believed that the best way to survive this nightmare was to say nothing at all. But then comes the darker interpretation, the one that true crime audiences can't shake. Some people believe Cyndy's silence is not protection, it's avoidance. That she might know more than she wants to admit. That she may have seen things inside Daniel and Malehya's relationship that, if revealed, would change the direction of the investigation. That her silence is less about survival and more about secrets. And the suspicion grows sharper because of the way she acted on May 2nd. Her decision to take Malehya and baby Meadow away from Daniel wasn't tentative. It was instant, forceful, and final. To onlookers, it seemed less like a worried mother intervening, and more like someone who had already made up her mind about Daniel long before the search even began. What did she see in him that morning? Or, more hauntingly, what had she known all along? In cases like this, silence is a double-edged sword. It protects you from scrutiny, but it also invites the worst kind of speculation. Communities fill the vacuum with rumor. Online forums twist absence into guilt. Silence becomes a canvas onto which everyone paints their own theory. And Cyndy's silence has been painted in every shade, from protective mother to possible conspirator. There's also the matter of her proximity. Unlike Belinda, who had limited access to the children, Cyndy lived nearby. She was a more consistent figure in Malehya's life. If there were red flags about Daniel's temper, about his alleged drug use, about the conditions of the home, then Cyndy would almost certainly have been aware of them. The fact that she has not addressed any of those issues publicly only deepens the sense of unease. Then comes the most curious detail. While Cyndy has stayed silent, her partner, Wade Paris, has not. In a secretly recorded conversation, Wade openly spoke about Daniel, about drugs, and about the dysfunction around the family. His words spread across the internet, becoming one of the most controversial pieces of evidence outside of the official RCMP investigation. And yet, Cyndy has not contradicted him. She has not clarified, corrected, or even commented. If her silence was meant to protect her family, then why allow Wade's words to hang unchallenged? That choice makes her silence feel less like caution and more like deliberate restraint. It is as if she is willing to let others speak for her, but refuses to put her own name to any statement. To investigators, that could be cooperation. To the public, it looks like evasion. And so the contrast sharpens. One grandmother demands answers, while the other refuses to ask questions out loud. One stands in the light, the other in the shadows. But in true crime, shadows always draw the eye. Is Cyndy Murray protecting her daughter from more pain? Is she following orders from police? Or is she guarding knowledge too explosive to reveal? No one outside her inner circle knows. And until she chooses to break her silence, every day that passes will only make her absence more haunting. Because sometimes it isn't the voices we hear that shape a case, it's the ones we don't. Part 3, the Wade-Paris connection.
The Daniel Martell, the stepfather.
He's on meth.
He's on meth.
He sells meth.
If Cyndy Murray herself has chosen silence, then her partner, Wade Paris, has done the opposite, though perhaps not intentionally. In one of the most startling turns in this case, a local content creator turned up at Wade's property under the pretense of buying a horse trailer. What followed was a 45-minute conversation, secretly recorded and later posted online. It wasn't a polished interview, it wasn't part of an official investigation. It was raw, unfiltered, and messy. But it was enough to shake the true crime community and add an entirely new layer of suspicion to the story. During the conversation, Wade spoke casually at first, as though he believed he was simply making small talk. But soon, his comments drifted toward the subject everyone in Nova Scotia had been whispering about, Daniel Martell. And then, without hesitation, Wade claimed that Daniel had been using drugs. He said it not with the careful caution of someone repeating rumors, but with the blunt confidence of a man who had already formed his opinion. Those words, Daniel used drugs, hit like a hammer. For many following the case, it was the first time such an accusation had been attached to a name and voice within Malehya's immediate circle. It was no longer online speculation, no longer faceless gossip. It was the partner of the children's grandmother, a man living under the same roof as Cyndy, saying it outright. The impact was immediate. Online forums exploded with debate. Some argued Wade had simply confirmed what many already suspected. Others accused him of spreading damaging rumors in a moment of careless honesty. The fact that the recording was secret only added to the sense of betrayal. Was he tricked into talking? Or was he relieved to finally say what he'd been thinking? But the bigger question became, if Wade knew, then surely Cyndy knew too. And if she knew, why had she stayed silent? This is where the connection between Wade and Cyndy becomes critical. They share a home, a life, and by extension, knowledge. If Wade felt comfortable enough to say Daniel was on drugs to a stranger, then it's difficult to imagine that the subject had never come up in private with Cyndy, which leads to a haunting possibility that she may have shared his view all along, but chose to withhold it from the public. The recording didn't just raise questions about Daniel, it raised questions about credibility, motives, and trust. Was Wade's claim based on first-hand observation, or was it second-hand gossip that hardened into fact over time? And why speak so freely to someone he barely knew? Perhaps he wanted his suspicions out there, but didn't want to bear the responsibility of saying them on camera. Perhaps consciously or not, he used that moment to plant seeds of doubt in the public mind. For investigators, statements like Wade's are both useful and dangerous. Useful because they may reflect real concerns within the family dynamic. Dangerous because they can muddy the waters, spreading claims that cannot be substantiated without hard evidence. And in this case, no official report has confirmed or denied Wade's allegation. It remains suspended in that gray space between rumor and fact. Yet what makes the Wade-Paris connection so powerful is not just what was said, but what wasn't. Wade spoke. Cyndy did not. She has not confirmed his words, nor has she distanced herself from them. She has let them hang in the air, neither defended nor denied. That silence again becomes her signature. And it is precisely that refusal to clarify that keeps suspicions swirling around her. The irony is painful. The person who has never spoken is judged for her silence, while the one who spoke too much is judged for his words. Together, they form a pair that embodies the contradictions of this case. One too quiet, one too loud, both drawing suspicion in their own ways. The timing only sharpens the unease. Remember, on the day of the children's disappearance, it was Cyndy who removed Malehya and Meadow from Daniel's control. And weeks later, it was Wade who accused Daniel of drug use. To many, this doesn't look random. It looks connected. It looks like a household that had already decided Daniel was dangerous long before the public caught on. And so the question lingers. Was Wade speaking recklessly, or was he hinting at truths that Cyndy refuses to say? Did his words reflect a private conversation that had already taken place behind closed doors? Or was he simply voicing the suspicion that had been festering in the community at large? In the end, the recording gave us a rare glimpse into the private world of Cyndy Murray through the words of the man closest to her. And it left us with a chilling realization. Silence and speech can be equally unsettling. Because in this case, what Wade chose to reveal, and what Cyndy continues to withhold, might hold the key to understanding the tragedy of Lilly and Jack Sullivan. Part 4. A Grandmother's Motives. Silence is rarely empty. In a case as tense as this one, silence is a statement, even if unintentional. Which is why the question that hangs over Cyndy Murray is not simply why hasn't she spoken, but what does her silence mean? There are several possible motives, each casting her in a very different light. The first is protection. Cyndy may believe that speaking publicly would only add to the storm swirling around her daughter, Malehya. Every detail of Malehya's life has been torn apart by strangers online, every rumor magnified. Perhaps Cyndy has decided that the best way to shield her daughter and her surviving granddaughter, Meadow, is to avoid feeding the narrative at all. Silence, in this view, is not weakness, it's armor. Another motive could be fear. When families are caught in the glare of a missing persons investigation, the pressure is crushing. Every word is dissected, every hesitation replayed. A trembling voice can be mistaken for deceit. A misplaced smile can be called a smirk. For some, that scrutiny is unbearable. Cyndy may fear that no matter what she says, it will be twisted against her. And so, she chooses the one path where nothing can be used as evidence, saying nothing at all. But there is a darker possibility: knowledge. Some observers believe Cyndy's silence isn't about self-preservation, but about what she knows. Her decision to remove Malehya and baby Meadow from Daniel's home the very day Lilly and Jack vanished has raised eyebrows. It suggests not only that she distrusted Daniel, but that she acted with urgency, as though she already suspected something terrible. If that's true, then her silence may be less about fear of misinterpretation and more about hiding what she cannot reveal without implicating someone close to her. This theory gains weight when paired with Wade Paris's recorded comments. If her partner openly accused Daniel of drug use and she has never contradicted him, it creates the impression that they share the same belief. The difference is that Wade spoke it out loud, while Cyndy kept it locked inside. Her motive, then, could be strategic. Let Wade carry the burden of speaking, while she remains insulated from direct criticism. And then, there is the possibility of loyalty divided. Cyndy is Malehya's mother, but she is also Lilly and Jack's grandmother. If she speaks against Daniel, she indirectly fuels suspicion against her own daughter for allowing that environment. If she defends Malehya, she risks angering the public who already view the mother with suspicion. In a landscape of impossible choices, silence may feel like the only option left. Ultimately, the motives behind Cyndy Murray's silence may never be fully understood unless she herself breaks it. Until then, the public is left to interpret: protection, fear, knowledge, or divided loyalty. Each theory paints her in a different role: the shield, the coward, the conspirator, or the torn mother. And in the vacuum of answers, suspicion thrives. Because in cases like these, silence is never neutral. It is always, whether she intends it or not, a message. Part 5. What her silence means for the case. When a family is thrown into the public eye during a disappearance, every move is scrutinized. But sometimes it's not what people say that defines perception. It's what they refuse to say. And in the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan, Cyndy Murray's silence has become one of the most controversial details of all. For investigators, a quiet witness can be an advantage. It reduces the risk of leaks, protects sensitive details, and allows law enforcement to control the flow of information. If Cyndy is cooperating privately with the RCMP, her silence in public could reflect an effort to preserve the integrity of the investigation. Behind the scenes, she may have provided statements, timelines, and context, all of which remain hidden under the veil of police confidentiality. But to the public, silence feels different. It feels like withholding. While Belinda Gray, the paternal grandmother, has taken on the role of public advocate, demanding inquiries, accusing CPS of failures, and calling for transparency, Cyndy's refusal to speak creates imbalance. One grandmother fills the stage with emotion and urgency. The other remains off stage, unseen, unaccounted for, and that absence leaves room for suspicion. The result is a perception gap. To many observers, Cyndy's silence looks less like cooperation and more like avoidance. And in a case already riddled with distrust of the RCMP for slow responses, distrust of CPS for failing to act on warning signs, distrust of Malehya for her choices, distrust of Daniel for his behavior. Adding another layer of silence only deepens the unease. There is also a cultural factor. In high-profile child disappearance cases, families are often expected to go public, to give interviews, to issue pleas, to show the world their grief. It's a ritual that reassures the public that the family is doing everything possible. When someone breaks that pattern, suspicion rises. Why wouldn't a grandmother be pleading on national television for the safe return of her grandchildren? Why wouldn't she join the search, the vigils, the campaigns? For many, her refusal to play that role is almost as alarming as the disappearance itself. Cyndy's silence also intersects with the failures of CPS. Remember, reports suggest that Child Protection Services visited the Sullivan home before the disappearance, but no serious action was taken. If Cyndy had concerns, did she voice them to CPS? If she didn't, why not? If she did, why were they ignored? The lack of answers creates an echo chamber where speculation fills the void. And then there's the matter of influence. As the maternal grandmother, Cyndy has proximity and insight that others don't. She was close to Malehya. She acted decisively on May 2nd, removing Malehya and baby Meadow from Daniel's presence. Her decisions show that she was anything but passive, and yet she has chosen not to explain them. That contradiction, decisive in action but absent in explanation, is at the heart of why her silence resonates so strongly. In the end, what her silence means for the case depends on perspective. To law enforcement, it may mean nothing, just a witness following instructions. To CPS critics, it may suggest she is complicit in systemic failures. To the online community, it is a mystery in itself, one that fuels theories and keeps suspicion alive. And in true crime, perception often matters as much as fact. Because the public doesn't just watch cases unfold, they interpret them, they build narratives. And right now, the narrative around Cyndy Murray is this: a grandmother who could shed light on the darkest mystery in Nova Scotia, but who chooses instead to remain in the shadows. Silence can protect. Silence can deceive. But in a case like this, silence always speaks louder than words. Cyndy Murray may believe she's shielding her daughter, or protecting Meadow, or simply avoiding the storm. But for the rest of us, her absence raises more questions than it answers. And the truth is, the questions aren't going away. Because in our next video, we'll ask, what role did CPS and the RCMP play in keeping this family's secrets hidden? And how does that change everything we thought we knew? This story isn't just about one grandmother. It's about a system, about warnings ignored, and about children who deserved protection. If you've stayed with us until now, don't forget to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to True Child Cases so you don't miss what comes next. The silence around Lilly and Jack Sullivan is heavy, but together we will keep asking questions until it breaks.